Hey everyone, my name is Mathias Ball, and I'm the illustrator for Robin's Worlds. For those that don't know me, I'm a queer illustrator who has worked on a few books such as this one. On top of that, I'm also a small business owner, and for a little fun fact, I'm a huge fan of space and all its goodness. This is what I typically look like, but for the purpose of this video, I will look like this little guy. Now, Robin's Worlds, written by Rainey Wet, is a fictional story of a non-binary child who's whisked away to a fantastical party on their 8th birthday. In this video, I'll be talking a bit about the process of illustrating this sweet little story while also showing some behind the scenes of my studio. Before jumping too far ahead, I want to thank School Library Journal for inviting me to take part in their event. I'm excited to tell you more about my illustration process for books such as this one. And here's my humble little workspace. Although small, I try and make sure it's filled with things that can inspire me. Some items on the wall are personal keepsakes, some are projects I've worked on, but some are also gifts or letters that peers have given to me over the last few years. Other things I just think are neat. To give a very quick breakdown of some items, these are letters or little notes I've gotten, these are some pins I first designed for my online store, and this is my little character Pupchi that I either draw during warm-ups or when my brain needs a break. He's just a silly little dog with some egg on his head. Something quick and easy for me to draw for whenever my head is feeling scrambled. This spot here is where I tend to hang up any character references when working on projects. Since I have just one monitor to work on, I use the wall as a monitor as well. The last thing I want to spotlight is this illustration which I made in second year of college. I created this piece traditionally when I was trying to figure out what my style was or where exactly I wanted to take my art. I knew I liked the nuances of color and the way they interacted with one another, as well as traditional textures and round shapes. Over time though, I also learned that I don't like the mess that can come with traditional media, and since then my work has become about 99% digital. All in all though, being stationary in one spot, I think it's important to surround yourself with things that bring you joy. Instead of staring at a screen and wall all day, I made sure that there was stuff I could literally look up to, especially when I find myself experiencing tunnel vision during the creative process. Now that you know a bit more about where Robin's World was illustrated, it's time to share how it was illustrated. For Robin's World, all of it was illustrated digitally using a laptop and my tablet. By having my tablet connected to my laptop, I'm able to look directly at the screen and see what I'm drawing. Admittedly though, it did take a bit of time to figure out the hand-eye coordination, but after some practice, I'd like to think I figured it out. Fun though, here's the very first thing I drew with the tablet, but please keep in mind I was 12 when I drew this, and my now versus then art is very different. For many children's books, we often start with character designs. The very first round of sketches for this book, I illustrated the characters pretty round, pretty chubby, and kind of inspired by my neighbor Totoro. Ultimately though, we went through a few rounds of design where we refined the direction of the art and aged and made everyone taller. Aside from some final edits further in the process, these were the final character designs. Now that we have character designs, it's time to start figuring out the book's layout. Going through the manuscript, unless it's already determined, I try and break down the text in a way that helps with the story flow, but also makes sense illustration-wise. Once we have the text sorted, we move along to sketches. So these sketches never see the light of day. They're typically my very first drafts, where I don't focus on much of the details, but more on the silhouettes and how they take up the space. As you can see, some I have a clearer vision of, while others are a lot messier. The main objective for me in these sketches is to get down an idea. As I keep these sketches to myself, I don't focus so much on translating the little details, but rather how shapes take up space on the spread. Before I send sketches off for approval though, I clean them up quite a bit so it's easier for others to understand what they're looking at. Once sketches are approved, we move along to color. For Robin's World, before committing to all of the artwork, this is one of the spreads we finalize first to help set the tone for the rest of the book. In this project specifically, I wanted to try and use a limited color palette as there are lots of elements in this book, and I was worried about things becoming too visually noisy. Having a limited palette also helped me streamline the process so I wouldn't get as overwhelmed when it came to pages with lots of elements such as the party scene. And here I'll be showing my process for creating an illustration by using one of the unused sketches for the book. You'll see over time, but I don't use line art in my process at all. Each piece is its own combination of individual shapes that all interconnect with one another. In each of these shapes, I'll wash over some colors that might not totally make sense, but to me, having these random colors makes it more visually interesting. Throughout the illustration process, I think of having a 5-year-old standing over and watching me draw, constantly asking, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Like, why does it look like that? And sometimes the answer is just, it's fun. In a moment, you'll see me pull out an image with a pattern. This is a separate illustration I created for Skipper's jacket. We want to create something fashionable, feminine, and classy. To keep things consistent, I created this pattern separately so I could overlay it onto the layer that has Skipper's jacket, and then adjust the colors accordingly to suit the scene. Creating patterns is something I primarily use when designing button-ups for my store Sulky Pup, so I was happy to be able to bring in that skill set for this project. After blocking in everything, we'll add a few details such as faces, outlining the heads, maybe adding a thread here or there. And after all that, we've got a sweet little image of Robin and Skipper. Now that all is said and done, I just want to say a huge thank you for joining me in my little behind the scenes tour of Robin's Worlds. I really hope you enjoyed learning a bit more about my process when it comes to illustration. As a queer person, it really means a lot to have books like these that show a place where other queer individuals are accepted and welcome into such a bright and colorful community. To be able to illustrate subjects such as these ones, it genuinely means a lot. So thank you.